Woof.
Hello, howdy, and welcome to this World of Warships video with your host, Tater Dawg. Today we have another installment of a segment I like to call A Tater's Perspective. And we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 9 premium British battleship, the Marlborough, which was available through the most recent Dockyard event. I realize I'm a little late to the table with this review, but I still wanted to get my thoughts on it out there anyway. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off by taking a look at the hull characteristics like armor, maneuverability, concealment. Then we'll go over to the shiptool.st website and do some stats comparisons to the other Tier 9 battleships. We'll return back to World of Warships and look over the armament, and then go back to the Ship Tool website and do some stat comparisons. And in addition, we'll do a little bit of stat comparison of this ship versus the Tier 7 British battleships, King George V and Duke of York, just for a couple of items that I find interesting. So let's start with the armor layout. This is pretty important on this ship, because just taking a quick overlook, you have 32 millimeters on the nose and on the stern of the strip. You have a 381 millimeter strip down the side, as well as 261 millimeter torpedo protection, and this little 235 millimeter strip, which is just in front and behind that. For some reason, there's this weird little 51 millimeter strip that's below the waterline on the nose. Not sure what the purpose of that is. Perhaps it could bounce a plunging shell, but essentially with the 32 millimeters, if you keep the ship angled, you can mitigate damage pretty well against everything that has less caliber than a Yamato and Musashi. So when you get up to that caliber of guns, they can't overmatch you. But you can mitigate some damage if you keep the ship angled well. However, the kicker here is we need to take a look at the citadel on this thing. And yes, folks, that is actually the freaking citadel. This thing is huge. It is exposed, and it is way above the waterline, as you can see. This thing is gigantic. If you show the least bit too much side in this ship, you will get pummeled hard. If you show flat broadside, you will get deleted, probably by any battleship guns, pretty much. You will get hit hard and or deleted. So the best advice I can give is do not show broadside. If you want to see an example of that, please go look up one of my other videos that is entitled Friends Don't Let Friends Sell a Marlborough Broadside to a Yamato, and see what happens when a full health Marlborough sells broadside to a Yamato long enough for the Yamato to unleash 2 salvos on it. Spoiler, it doesn't end well for the Marlborough. So, that being said, that armor scheme is really similar to a lot of the other British battleships, the 32 millimeter armor. So like I said, keep the ship angled well, and it does okay in mitigating damage. As far as survivability, you've got 76,800 hit points, which is kind of in the middle. You've got a 23% torpedo protection or damage reduction, which is not all that great at the tier. If we move down to maneuverability, you've got a top speed of 31.5 knots, which is pretty good. It's upper part of the tier. Turning circle radius of 860 meters, rudder shift time of 16.8 seconds. Those are middling values. They're neither good nor bad. And your concealment, I do have captain skills and equipment and such on this. So it's 12.1 kilometers, so it's pretty stealthy ship, which is good. You kind of need that so you can strike and go dark and run away and not get obliterated. With this being said, let's go over and check out some of the hull characteristics on the Ship Tools website. Now that we're on the Ship Tools site, we're going to start off. Look at the length of the ship. The Marlborough is 249 millimeters. It's 249 meters in length, which is one of the shorter ships at the tier. If you look at the tonnage, you can see that the Marlborough falls kind of in the middle, 55,687 tons, which health-wise is going to put it kind of in the same place, right in the middle with 76,800 health. So reasonable health pool. When you look at the maximum speed, again, you're not that much slower than the fastest battleships like Georgia, Missouri, Iowa. You're only a knot and a half slower than that, so that's great. When you look at your detectability, your concealment rating, you're second only to the Lion, which is your sister battleship, so to speak, in the British tech tree line. Looking at the rudder shift of 16.8, again, puts you kind of in the middle. Turning radius at 860 puts you kind of in the upper middle, somewhere in that neighborhood. Not bad. Torpedo protection is not going to be the best. You are the second worst. Only the Prince Rupert is worse, and nothing really different between any of the ships on fire resistance. Now, as far as other hull items, let's look at the consumables real quick, and there's not a lot to talk about here. For Marlborough, you get a fairly standard damage control party with a 15-second action time, 80-second cooldown, and 4 repair parties. It's a standard battleship heal. It is not the improved American heal, and it's darn sure not the British super heal. It's a standard battleship heal. So nothing special, and that's it. That's all you get. So pretty vanilla in this area. You don't get any fighters or spotters or anything. It's just the damage con and the heal. The 4 heals that you get is pretty standard for most battleships. There's a few that only get 3, but you do get 4 heals, and you can increase that to 5 with captain skills. So having looked at that, let's bounce back over to the World of Warships site and take a look at the armament. So let's start with the main battery on this ship. The gimmick is here you get 16 main battery guns, and they have with the module in place, you have a 22-second reload on these bad boys. However, the drawback is, there's always got to be a drawback, they are 356 millimeter guns. They're essentially, with a couple of exceptions, the same guns that you'll find on the Tier 7 British battleships, the Duke of York and the King George V. Keep that in mind. You've got 1,633 millimeter secondaries, but they are absolutely not worth building into, as you'll see. And you have a 20.9 kilometer firing range, which is okay. It's not great nor bad. Airstrike, you get 3. Couple bombs. Right now, no subs in the game, so it's just a gimmick to send out there and try and catch somebody with their AA on so you can spot them. Hopefully, the subs won't come back and we won't need them. Now, going down to the AA defense, not particularly great. You do get medium range and long range AA here, but you don't get any short range AA, and your total DPS is below average, and that's bad. And what's even worse, and you'll see this when we do comparison, is your shell explosions. It's not up to par. That's the best way to say it. So having looked at this, let's now bounce over to the stat comparison on the Ship Tools website. And we're going to start out with the main battery here, comparing it to other Tier 9s. If you look at the AP DPM, well, of course, with 16 guns, you're going to get a huge AP DPM, but don't get your hopes up for that. There's some reasons for that. With the HE DPM, you would think you would see this gigantic difference here, but not really. You get a decent difference over the next closest ship, the Musashi, but you get this 184,000 DPM. The range comparison, it falls, well, let's actually turn this around since the Musashi's the best. You're 8th out of 19, so you're falling right in that middle range. Your reload should be, if I'm not mistaken, the best at tier, a little bit better than the JB and the Georgia. Your 180 turn time on your guns is lower tier, I will say. It's down there with it's a pretty typical battleship 180 time. So it's 45 seconds, so it's not particularly great. Keep that in mind. Now here's where some things we need to look at about the guns, and this is where one of the first big things about the guns come up. So you got your horizontal dispersion, which honestly is pretty average. It's typical battleship horizontal dispersion. Nothing's worse than anybody else, really. You do have the ships with the battlecruiser dispersion that are going to be better, but in general, and I've got these values normalized so all the ships are being compared at a 15-kilometer range. You'll see that right up here in the upper right, and that makes a big difference when comparing, because the World of Warships site gives you these dispersion values at maximum range, which is not a fair comparison because of differences in ranges of guns. So when you compare these, it's pretty even with everything else. Similar thing for the vertical dispersion. You're in there at 114 meters. That's pretty much in line with most of the others, better than some, a few meters worse than others. The kicker is when you get to the sigma value of 1.4, worst at the tier. And for anybody that's not familiar with that, and I won't go into an in-depth discussion, but basically the dispersion values are the worst case of what your shell might do based on where you aim it at. If you take a point you aim at, the horizontal dispersion is the amount of distance the shell may stray right or left of where you aim. The vertical dispersion is the amount of distance the shell may fall short or long of where you aim. And the sigma value is the tendency of all the shells that you fire, if you kept firing over and over, to land closer to where you aimed. So the higher that number, the more tendency that most of the shells will land towards where you aim. The lower the number, the more it scatters throughout that dispersion oval shape or ellipse shape. So what that means is this is more shotgunny. When you shoot at a ship, instead of 16 shells falling near the middle of the ship where you aim, they're going to distribute out across the ship that you aim at, and a lot may even miss. So it could be worse. At least the dispersion values are pretty normal for a battleship. So at least it's not horrible dispersion, but the sigma is a problem, which is why the 16 guns don't get overwhelming and don't make this ship OP. So keep that in mind. Let's now look at the AP shells real briefly. With the 356 caliber gun, where you've got the smallest gun, you also have the lightest shells. You have the lightest alpha damage per shell. It's a typical British shell. You'll also see, if you look at your penetration values, it's, again, worse than everything else. These are 356 millimeter shells. They can do damage, even on tier 9 and 10 ships, but you have to be more selective about how angled the targets are that you're shooting at and what you're shooting at. So obviously your overmatch will be on the low end. The other thing of note is, although this is a British ship, you have a standard fuse time on these shells. You do not have, like the Lion, you don't have that reduced fuse arming time that you get on some of the British ship for the AP. Now on the HE side, and here's where I want to do a little side comparison. If you look at this, your shell damage is 4,800. That's the same as the German Prince Rupert. It's worse than the FDG, and it's barely better than the Pommern. And we all know German ships have notoriously horrible damage output on their shells. So this is a little bit of an issue with this ship, and I'll show you why that's an issue in a second. You do have a 24% fire chance, which is worst at tier, even worse than the Japanese and German ships. And but you somehow still manage to have the best fires per minute ratio, and that's because of all the crap you're flinging at the wall with 16 guns firing every 22 seconds. So that's the only reason that number is as high as it is. But here's where I want to take a little side trip and compare the Marlborough's shells to the King George V and Duke of York. So right now we're looking at AP shells. If you look at this, you'll see these are exactly the same. They are exactly the same with one exception. The KGV and Duke of York get that short fuse time. The Marlborough does not. That could be a problem if you're shooting at a broadside cruiser that is not too far away. You might get over pins with the Marlborough in some cases where you would get pins and citadels with KGV and Duke of York. But other than that, you know, the damage output, shell speeds, drag coefficients, all that stuff, penetration, it's all the same. Nothing is different. But that's where the similarities end. This is where it gets interesting. And I can only assume that Wargaming did this because of the Marlborough having 16 guns, and they wanted to avoid an issue if the shells should converge and you land a large number of them of having huge, too big of an alpha strike on HE. So you can see, if you look at the Tier 7 battleships with these 356mm guns, they have 6,100 damage per shell output. These ships have 10 guns on them, but with 16, they nerfed this down to 4,800. That's more than a 20% nerf. So there's that. Other than that, most of the flight characteristics and pin characteristics are the same, but when you look at the fire chance, well, KGV has 41%. Well, both KGV and Duke of York get 41% fire chance, while the Marlborough gets 24%. The KGV actually has higher fires per minute than the Marlborough at Tier 9 does. So that's a bit of a problem in my eyes. I think there could have been something. I don't understand if these are the same guns, why they get such significantly different characteristics. I think there could have been some other design element put in to try and mitigate the damage for these shells if Wargaming was concerned about too high of an alpha strike. So going back over to the Tier 9 comparison, secondaries, not really much to talk about here. When you look at the secondary DPM, the British ships, Marlborough and Lion, are both at the bottom. Again, nothing to see here, no use to build into secondaries. Wouldn't recommend it. Anti-aircraft. This is the last thing to look at, and this is where there is a good bit of disappointment. So if you look at the overall AA strength, well, it shows you're 11th out of 19. I mean, that's kind of in the middle area. You do get a 6-kilometer range on the long range. The problem is your long range DPS is not all that good. It's second worst. It's worse than the Musashi. And your medium range, your DPS on medium range is actually not bad. It's third best, but you have no short range. So your overall DPM, kind of so-so. Here's the other big issue. If you look at the Marlborough and we look at the flak strength, the rating of the flak strength is worst in the game. You only get 3 flak puffs standard, and when you build into the hull, I believe you get 1 more, but you only get 3 standard flak puffs, which is atrocious, especially compared to these other ships that are getting 6 and then even more when you build into it. So that's pretty substandard, and that's a problem. So you're not going to get this alpha damage on the planes when they come in, where you can catch them in a flak burst and knock several planes out at one time. It's just not going to happen very often. So keep that in mind. If the carrier wants to strike you, he is going to strike you, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. Now, That's all the stats comparison. Let's jump back to the World of Warships site really quickly before we go to the gameplay example. So before we go to the gameplay example, I do want to show you how the ship is set up and how the captain is set up. On the equipment side, I'm basically running a typical tank build setup here. So we have main armaments modification in slot 1. We have damage control mod in slot 2. We have aiming systems mod, which you really need to take on this ship with the poor Sigma. We have damage control systems modification in slot 4. Now, depending on how you like to play, a lot of people do take steering gears here. So if you want to use this ship as a kiting ship, you can wiggle a little bit better with improved rudder shift. And you could possibly even use propulsion modification if that's something that's part of your play style. So none of these are wrong choices. In slot 5, you're going to want to take concealment since you're very well concealed at this level. You want to use that. And then lastly, you have your main battery reload time to get that main battery reload down to a ridiculous amount for your 16 guns, because you do need to throw a lot of stuff at the wall to try to get something to stick here. As you can see, consumables we talked about, nothing special. You just have a repair, and we do have 5 repair parties because of running the captain skill that bumps that up by 1. So let's show you how the captain's set up. Now, I just have a 20-point captain, and again, since you don't have a super hill here, most people will run a standard tank build, which you're going to take gun feeder, you're going to take grease the gears, you're going to take adrenaline rush, and then probably, in whatever order you choose, concealment expert, fire prevention, and emergency repair. Now, that's your first 18 points. So a lot of people with their last 3 points will take basics of survivability. That's your standard tank build. Me personally, a lot of times I prefer to take priority target and then take my choice of preventative maintenance or emergency repair, just depending on whether the ship has any fragile modules on it that I feel like need to protect, especially if it loses turrets easily. So that's just my personal thing. Build it how you like and build it to your play style. Now, having shown all this, let's bump over to the gameplay example. But before we do, just want to make a quick invite to everybody to check out my stream on Twitch. You can find me at twitch.tv/Tater_Dawg. That's TATER_DAWG. And I'll put links to my socials down below here, as well as in the description to the video, where you can join and get announcements for when we go live. Typically, I'm live every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday nights when there are clan battles going on. When there's no clan battles, I'll usually also stream on Wednesday and Sunday nights. So come check us out. With that said, and the shameless shilling done, here's your gameplay example.
Okay, let's hear what you have to say about it.
And, well, in co-op, it was okay, but I did keep it angled fairly well and actually bounced a few shells. Now, the armor's not great, but you cannot show side on this boat.
You've got to watch your angles. You got to keep your distance.
Yeah, you need to play at about 15 to 18 kilometers.
It will burn things.
Yeah.
It will burn well.
Even though the fire chance sucks. And, you know,
there's so many guns.
The accuracy, even though it's not good, it didn't feel, at least in co-op, it didn't feel quite as bad as I thought it would. It was still not good, though. I'm not telling you it's good by any means. But it just didn't feel as bad as I expected.
How fast do I load these? Oh, 5 point. Yeah, I'm probably going to like this boat, even though it doesn't have a lot of guns. We'll see in a second.
So, what do you think? Should I go out here to the 910 line, or should I stay more south of D, or maybe get in a kiting position?
If something shows up on the 910 line, it'll be your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Because you've got, what's your range?
I gotta check that. What is, I don't think it's that great.
It's
It's 20.9. It's 20.9.
Yeah,
That's
see,
not
it's
horrible.
better than this. This is 17.
That's like GK range.
I'm going up here and going to sit on the edge. I'm going to let the Schultz do my work for me.
Now the question is this Ostergotland going to go in the cap? I'd like to support him if I could. But we got, yeah, the Felix Schultz should be doing other stuff.
Well, I want to get up here on the edge anyway, because if the Gotland gets in there and then gets opposed, I want to try to be able to push around the edge and get whatever's there.
I don't like the fact that we've got Palmer coming around here with us. Well, no, he looks like he's actually turning into the... Aha!
We got a Kron.
Okay, well that's both good and bad. And a Georgia. Oh, Georgia is bad. Oh, look at all those shells. He's speed juked. Okay, I got to turn around, so I'm kiting away from this Georgia. Oh, there's two Georgias. That's lovely.
Oh, I'm not getting out. I'm not sticking my nose out there. I mean, these are floaty-ish, but they still are pretty...
There's a fire on the cranny. I'm going to turn around and get into kiting spot, which means these guns will probably take forever to turn around, but hey, at least I've got quite a few. Okay. Decent damage to the Georgie.
Oh, yeah.
We got two of these guys. Looks like they're going to collide. What the hell? They are.
Like oh, I'm spotted. Damn it. Who spotted me?
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Howie. Oh.
Well, having poor accuracy is not bad since these Georgias are grinding against each other. I'm just gonna shoot in their direction and hit both of them.
I'm doing. And this Schultz was so kind to me. He gave me smoke.
Oh, and there's smoke here. This is going to be great.
I'm gonna have to compliment the Schultz. Don't let me forget.
Come on, get these guns around. Now you do have to show it. Oh my gosh, kiting is even worse.
Enemy cruiser sighted.
I'm just shooting in the general direction. I see where the secondaries are coming out now.
Yeah, Kronstadt's working around where he can get me spotted. Need to kind of go help out with this Prince Rupert. Kronstadt's doing a damn good job with his throttle. I do know that. Don't think it's going to help him this time. Yeah, there's a fire on him and 7,000 damage. Ooh, there's ZF6. Definitely want to help with him.
We'll leave that Kronstadt to do his thing, and the George is over there.
Ooh, Yagumo just took a big shot. I could be whacked by something here. Alright, Missouri. Why is the Missouri's radar not showing me this DD? Why can I not see this DD? There he is.
The 6 or the Goom is 6?
The ZF6.
It
Okay,
doesn't
he
matter.
did. Now I'm gonna go and see if I can get shots on this Ruprecht, and I am detected by something. Probably the yes, Kronstadt.
It's gotta be the Kron.
Yep. I'm gonna see if I can go get some shots on this Ruprecht.
Me too.
Oh, yeah, the shots got over the island. Perfect. That's a lot of shells.
I love that boat. I really do like it. I never have thought that it was a
But
crappy
we
boat,
needs a few good taters.
like some people said it was.
Hey, tin can pops. Look at that. How you doing, sir? Long time no see.
I've had mine longer than most because I got it right off the bat. I whaled it because I wanted to steal.
Oh yeah. Ruprecht. Oh boy, those converged nicely.
Yeah.
8,000 damage. Now that was a good, and Georgia's coming again, by the way. So let me get one more shot on the Ruprecht,
Enemy destroyer sighted.
and then we'll have to start working on these Georgias. So I'm putting it in full scoot mode here, and I think Ruprecht is going to be done for. Yeah, he's about to go down. Somebody's doing him in, but I've got to start working on these Georgias. Yeah, because they're charging. Watch your side there, Rabbit. They are charging wide ass open.
Okay, I can swing now.
Problem is I can't show him side to get all my guns to bear.
I've got.
Oof.
The enemy are winning.
Is he looking at me? He just
No, he's
doesn't.
looking at me.
He really doesn't give a shit about me. That's good.
No, he wants to get rid of me for some reason.
Battleships tated.
Neither one of them's looking at me right now. We'll have to see if we can change that. Okay, I think one of them's going to start looking at me. Nope. The one that's broadside's not even looking.
Enemy submarine sighted.
Why is it picking up on the other one?
Yeah, I was exposed to the Kron and both Georgias.
There's a fire on the low Georgia.
The enemy's about to win.
Boy, when the shells come together with decent accuracy, it is ugly. Just like that. Oof. Ooh, boy.
Destroyer.
Oh yeah, this is a fun boat.
Oh, Kronstadt is taking a shot. Look at him being cheeky. Look at the
16
boy.
of those shells at once is brutal.
Oh, where's he going? Is he going ground? He's
Yeah,
going to
looks
ground.
like it.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
going to ground. Thank
Trying
you,
to
sir.
Avoid the oof.
Thank you.
Trying to avoid those palm
Yeah, just to get a little bit of a cheeky shot on me, he did that. How lovely of him. There's a fire and 8,700 damage for his trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just not going to show him enough side to... Oh, no fire.
Mm. So that may come back.
What's that?
Fat chance may be coming back.
Oh, cool.
But he wants to. He's ex-RNG, so he's coming back and he's going to apply probably for retirement. He wants to slow down in his life.
To win.
Gotcha.
It's amazing the guy that's in charge of running our ENG now has already said, sure, no problem. Damn, there's a DD right there.
See, look at that. All those shells came in, and I just bounced. Who is in the sea cat, by the way?
It's got to be the Gumo. Yeah, it is the Gumo.
Oh crap! He is actually behind me, and there's also
A buffalo.
Yeah, I do not want to get caught broadside to him.
I gotta go watch the Musashi get destroyed by the venom.
Yep, there's buffalo there. And we know Gumo's coming around.
Oh, he dropped his torps. He's flipping. That's just so pretty. You can't avoid those. And your guns aren't going to keep up.
One thing I do like is I do like the reload on this bad boy. Well, there's a Confederate. Problem is you can't show enough side. I can't tell. The Gumo looks like he's just hiding.
He is. He's getting the cap before he does anything.
Yeah, I can see that.
DD. Mark DD.
Alright, so Buffalo is going to rain HE.
Enemy cruiser detected.
Plus he knows you're opening, so that you're going to give him his 5-5 so he can come out and torp you.
Yeah. Huh, so the Buffalo goes completely frickin' dark.
Wow, he's not that far away.
And I've detected...
Looks like it's all up.
Oh, I'm the last person.
Doomed.
How lovely. Yep. How the hell was I the last one to survive in a frickin' Marlborough?
It's not the boat that everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad.
You
It's
just
not
have to-
great. So there we have it, the gameplay example. Unfortunately, our team got pretty much crushed, but I think the gameplay example does a pretty good job of showing that if you keep the ship angled, you can farm some damage with it. You can set a few fires with it, although it's not going to be as good as if it had a higher fire chance. I think I set 9 fires and 80 some shell hits, so that's around a 10%, right at about a 10% rate. Basically, if I give an overall overview of the ship, and I would be remiss, actually, if I didn't bump back over real quick to show you one thing that I pointed out during the gameplay before I give you my final thoughts, is the gun firing arcs. And I made comments on this during the gameplay, but let's show you this. So you can see these gun arcs. There's a 47-degree arc if you're kiting away, or a 42-degree arc if you're nose in, which is not particularly good, particularly bad if you're kiting away. So realistically, you know, what you really want to do in this ship is you want to be utilizing cover. You want to be positioning so that you limit the number of enemies that can shoot back at you. You're going to want to play it at medium ranges. Something like that, and take your best shots. I fired exclusively HE in this example. I have seen others playing it, firing a lot of AP, and it can hit pretty well. So don't ignore the AP. This was actually my very first game in a random in the ship, so I just stuck with HE and did okay, even though our team got crushed. So final thoughts, is Marlborough a good ship? No, not really. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. Is it a complete and total hot piece of garbage? I don't think so. It's not, like I say, it's not good ship. It's below average. That would be what I would say. You know, it's pretty interesting to see 16 shells going out every 21 or 2 seconds. But having that ginormous exposed citadel is a liability, and the Sigma on the guns makes it tough to hit a lot, but you did see some pretty good damage numbers with the shells that landed. So, overall, it was okay. Is it a ship I'm going to play much? Probably not. It's going to be mostly a port queen that I may dust off from time to time. So that's basically the final thoughts. You know, I wouldn't rush out to buy this ship if they make it available. Certainly wouldn't rush out to spend money or buy the ships unless it's you just got plenty of resources, and whatever resource they should make it available for in the future. If you have plenty, you know, and you just want another toy, then great. But I wouldn't rush out and try and spend a whole lot of money to buy doubloons or to outright purchase the ship unless you just want to whale it or absolutely have to have it for some reason. So those are the final thoughts from a Tater's perspective. Not sure what anybody else may have found with their experience with the ship, but I'd love to hear any comments you have about it. Feel free to put them down below. With that, we're going to end the video. Hope everybody stays well, stays safe, and stays happy. Have a good one. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to see notifications of future videos, just ring the bell. Until next time, Tater Dawg says, woof.